Yeah.
Yeah.
My number 2 is Marvel Lego Superheroes on the Xbox 360. It's available on all number of other formats. Potentially every format that it could possibly be available on, it is on. I'll try and be brief. It's last year, Lego Batman 2 and Lego Lord of the Rings made my cut for the best. When we did our roundup of the 20 best games of the year, both of those games were on my top 20 because I thought they were absolutely terrific. Lego Marvel Superheroes, I think there's a slightly less emphasis on humour than there was in both Lego Batman 2 and Lego Lord of the Rings, and there are technical issues. I'm playing on 360, and there are slight technical issues. I mean, Lego Lord of the Rings and Lego Batman 2 felt to me like they were hitting the peak of what the current generation of consoles can do. You know, the Xbox 360 and the PS3, they looked great, they felt slick, and here you can tell that we're knocking on the door of the next generation. I mean, there's the frame rate stutters a little bit on 360, and there's screen tearing. I mean, most of this happens because periodically in between levels there's a sandbox where you can fly around as Iron Man and stuff, and when you're doing that, there is screen tearing and there is frame rate drops and stuff like that. But when you're actually in the levels, physically in the Lego levels, it looks really gorgeous. And there's a tip, incidentally, if you're playing on split screen co-op, there's still no online co-op, but if you're playing in split screen multiplayer, you can set the division to be static, either horizontally or vertically, because if you don't do that, this is a more chaotic game than any of the other Lego games. So it's flying around, and sometimes it gets confused. So sometimes, if you're moving around a lot, it can put you on the bottom screen when you're supposed to be on top. I mean, it goes mental. It goes diagonal. It goes upside down. All that stuff. So if you're playing on co-op, on split screen co-op, definitely fix that down so that it's not going to be moving around. It's a great game. It's a really terrific game. I think these Lego games have reached near Pixar levels of quality, and just the other thing, it's funny that in this game there's 15 levels, and if you're not rushing around and trying desperately to complete them, I'd say each one is up to an hour long. And for games that are that long, because they are 15 hours is quite long if you're not exploring, they're remarkably free of filler. And in addition to that, there's this sandbox element, which is completely optional, but you can play around in it if you want, and there's sort of side missions and stuff like that. But there are a couple of imperfections with the AI, tiny little details that probably shouldn't be a problem. And if you're in the middle of a mass brawl and you're playing on single player, the game appears to get confused because you're trying to switch to a different character, but there are all these guys waving their arms around and trying to sort of get a piece of the action that it just bounces between one or two of you. So there are technical imperfections, but they are minor. But by and large, it's a really terrific game. The Lego games now are at a level that I never thought they'd get to. They are truly, really, truly, truly high quality in every aspect, and they're funny. They're not hilariously sort of thigh-slappingly funny, but they're funny in a way that I don't have children, but this would be my first port of call if a child that I had wanted to play games.
Yeah, they will be the games that I play with my little fella in a year or so when he's capable.
Yeah, but because I laughed at them in the same way that a child would laugh. You know, there's great slapstick. If you're Mr. Fantastic from the Fantastic Four, he can turn into any object. So there's puzzles where he turns into wrecking balls or pliers. And if you just hold his sort of transform button, he just, for no reason whatsoever, just turns into a teapot. And when you're playing as another character and you see this teapot bouncing around, it's hilarious. It really is hilarious. And you know, the dialogue's really well done as well. I mean, it's stupid. You know, what's that bad guy? Red Skull. I am the Red Skull. You are merely numbskulls. A terrible line of dialogue. But the actors deliver it with such conviction. It's not one of those things like, well, hey, this is a kid's game. There's something vaguely serious about it, which I think is what makes it work so well. So these games are really on... I was waiting for them to... I'm still waiting for them to sort of take a bit of a downturn. But there's so much content. If you're a fan of, my girlfriend is a massive Marvel nutcase, and the amount of in-jokes she was getting, you have to rescue Stan Lee on every level. He's sort of in peril somewhere. But in addition to that, there is in-jokes galore that my girlfriend was just so tickled by. They've worked above and beyond. They really are on a different plane these days. They're accessible to kids, obviously, and they're accessible to adults as well. They have bridged that gap that I think few games manage to do. So it's great. I mean, it's absolutely terrific, and there's no filler for a game as long as it is, which is quite something.
Yeah, it does sound terrific.
It's really good. Really, I mean, it's really, really good. You can't go wrong. It's a Christmas game par excellence.
Right.